Story 1. The Caller. Gas station, 2017. I was 21 years old. I was young and stupid when I took that job. Part-time work at a gas station a few towns over. The kind of place you tell yourself is temporary while you figure out what you actually want to do with your life. Days were fine, busy enough to keep your brain occupied. But the nights had a way of getting inside your head. The store closed at midnight. On a good night, I'd ring up a few travelers, restock some shelves, wipe down the counter. On a slow night, I'd just sit there under the fluorescent lights, listening to the hum of the refrigerators and watch the clock. That particular night started like any other. Then, around 9 or 10, the phone rang. I didn't think twice. I picked up. And the moment I heard the voice on the other end, something cold moved through me.
It was low, drawn out, like someone doing a bad impression of a movie killer. Ghostface from Scream, if Ghostface had never actually been scary. The voice asked me if I was alone in the store. I almost laughed. I assumed it was one of my friends. They had a habit of pulling stupid pranks. I said something sarcastic like, "Yeah, you got me," and hung up. I texted the group chat immediately, told them to cut it out. Everyone played dumb, acted confused. All of them swore it wasn't them. Classic move. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same voice, same dragged out tone. This time, it asked why I'd hung up. I gave another sarcastic response, some variation of real funny guys, and waited for the laugh. Instead, I got silence. Then something that made the hair on my arms stand up. The voice said, I shouldn't be rude to people who know where I am. I hung up, but the sarcasm was gone. I kept telling myself.
I said nothing. I hung up. Then I pulled out my phone and started messaging my friends one by one. Not the group chat this time, individually. One was with his girlfriend. One sent me a photo from his basement. One was half an hour away at a friend's place. I couldn't disprove any of them. But I also couldn't shake the feeling that whoever was calling wasn't one of them. Because they knew the store was quiet. Not guessed. Knew. After the 5th call, I stopped answering. I'd just watch the phone ring, wait for it to stop, and 30 seconds later, it would ring again. This went on for 15 minutes straight. That's when I started checking the cameras. There were a few outside, one facing the pumps, one pointed toward the tree line, one covering the alley where the dumpsters were. The quality was terrible at night, grainy, full of blind spots. I kept cycling through the feeds, half expecting to catch one of my friends crouched behind a car, dying of laughter. I didn't see anyone, but then I started hearing things. A tap somewhere, then a scraping sound near the side wall. Then what sounded like footsteps on loose gravel out back. I texted the group chat again. This time, I wasn't joking. I sent a photo of the empty store and said this isn't funny anymore. One of my friends actually called me from his real number, voice and everything, and told me he wasn't involved, and that if I felt unsafe, I should lock up early. I wasn't ready to do that yet. Part of me still thought I was spiraling. Then, the last customer of the night walked in. The door opening made me jump. I looked up and saw him. Late 20s or early 30s. Nothing outwardly unusual about him. Dressed normally. Clean. No visible reason to be alarmed. He didn't say hello. Just, I told myself it was nothing.
Just a weird guy, probably tired, maybe high. He pushed the door halfway open, then stopped. He turned his head back without turning his body, chin slightly lowered, eyes angled up at me from across the store. And he smiled. It wasn't an awkward smile. It wasn't a nervous smile. It looked deliberate, like he knew exactly what he was doing, and he wanted me to understand that. Then he stepped outside. And instead of walking to a car, there was no car. He turned toward the side of the building. He kept his eyes on me through the glass the whole way, kept that smile. I watched until the angle of the window cut him off. Then I rushed to the monitor. I saw him round the corner, head toward the tree line, then disappear into the blind spot behind the building. He didn't come back out. I gave it 20 seconds, then a minute. I was 2 feet from the door handle when I heard it. Fast footsteps on pavement. Not running, speed walking, getting louder. I turned and saw him, coming from the front corner of the building, heading straight toward me. I threw myself into the car, locked the door, started the engine, hit reverse before I'd even processed what was happening. I peeled out of that lot and didn't breathe right until I was on the highway. My boss reviewed the footage the next day. He said the guy looked like a regular customer, said I'd probably just spooked myself because of the phone calls. I quit that same week. I didn't argue. I just told him if he thought that was normal, he could work the closing shift himself. I still believe the caller and that customer were the same person. I can't prove it, but I was the one there, and I know what I saw.
Story 2. The Offer. My name is Cadence. I tend bar at a small dive off the highway. I like my job. I know that might sound strange given what I'm about to tell you, but it's the truth. The place is nothing fancy. Dim lighting, sticky menus, a jukebox that hasn't been updated since 2003. The regulars know each other by name. The tips are decent, and I've gotten good at reading people. That last part matters, because I've learned that the dangerous ones don't always look dangerous. He walked in on a slow weeknight, late 40s maybe, but well preserved, black turtleneck, black trench coat, the kind of man who walks into a room like he already knows what's in it. He sat down at the bar and ordered something top shelf without looking at the menu. "Do you like working here?" he asked. Normal enough question. I said yes, smiled, made some joke about the glamorous life of a bartender. He laughed. We talked for a bit. Nothing strange about it. He had that easy confidence that older men sometimes carry, the kind that feels earned rather than performed. At one point he asked if I'd ever thought about doing something bigger. Odd question, but not alarming. I gave him my standard non-answer. He nodded, took a long sip of his drink, and looked almost disappointed. Then he asked what time I got off. I sighed internally, thought, of course, just another one. I gave him a vague answer, smiled, and started wiping down the counter. He didn't push. He finished his drink, laid a crisp $100 bill on the bar like it weighed nothing, and walked out without another word. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. About a week later, he came back. This time he had a woman with him. She was mid-30s, dressed a little too young for herself. Not in an embarrassing way, but in a calculated way. The kind of person who wants to read is approachable. She smiled the moment she sat down, a wide, practiced smile. And before I could even set down napkins, she leaned forward and said, "You're so pretty."
Her fingers brushed my arm as she said it, a beat too long. The man said nothing, just sat beside her. That was odd. He'd been so talkative before. She asked how long I'd worked there, how old I was. Standard small talk questions, except none of it felt like small talk. It felt like she was building a file. Then she lowered her voice and told me she ran an
I laughed, said it sounded too good to be true. She insisted it was real. Kept cycling through the same words. Exclusive, safe, fun. Said plenty of girls like me had done it. Then she said, "You should step outside for a second. There's someone who can explain it better." My pulse jumped. I didn't smile this time. I said firmly, "I'm good." Right then, a group of customers came in loud and laughing. The woman's smile flickered, just for a moment, just enough for me to catch it. Then she and the man stood up and left without another word. I told my boss and my coworkers everything. We agreed to keep an eye out. My boss reminded me the cameras were running and that he was only 15 minutes away if I needed him. I tried to put it behind me. Then one night after closing, I noticed a car parked across the street. Engine off. No one getting out. Just sitting there. I kept my head down and walked to my car. When I pulled out, I checked my mirrors. The car followed. I took a turn. It followed. I took another. Still there. I drove straight to the police station and pulled into the lot. The car sped off immediately. Nothing happened for a while after that. I started to believe maybe it was over. Then, she came back. It was a slow midnight shift. Barely anyone in the bar. I was wiping down the counter, thinking about closing early, when the door opened and she walked in alone. Then I heard it. Metal rattling at the back door. Someone was trying to get in. I grabbed the heaviest thing within reach, a metal cocktail shaker, and called 911. I stood there with the shaker in one hand and my phone in the other, watching both doors. Then, headlights swept across the lot. My boss's car. The rattling stopped. The van pulled out with a screech of tires. I didn't let go of the shaker until my boss was inside. When the police arrived and reviewed the footage, what they found was worse than anything I'd imagined. 2 masked figures had been crouching outside the front door, just out of my line of sight, waiting. A third had been at the back, using the noise to try to flush me out toward them. The van's plates came back unregistered. My boss doesn't let me work alone anymore. That's the only good thing that came out of it. But I still think about the question I can't answer. How did they know I'd be there alone that night?